Did we believe the hype of 5 million in revenue per FTE tech companies? Well, let's find out in today's edition of SaaS Venture School. So welcome, Ben Marie here. So attended a great event here locally. I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona now, and the event was in Tempe, held by Phoenix Forward, phxfwd.org, helping promote software companies in Arizona. And they hosted Mark Roberge of HubSpot fame, now Stage 2 Capital, and he ran their go-to-market function up to IPO and has a book, Sales Acceleration Formula, great book. So fascinating conversation about AI, trends in software and SaaS and AI. And one thing that came up was the hype around SaaS companies, tech companies making 4 million per FTE, or solo founder businesses making 5 million per that solo founder. And should we believe that hype? And according to Mark, no. And I'm on the same train there. As far as the hype around all these companies that could generate 4 or 5 million of revenue per FTE, because once that starts happening, well, other people are going to jump in and do the same thing and probably bring down the prices. So there could be that first mover advantage where you're making 4 or 5 million of revenue per FTE or a solo founder, but other people are going to get wind of that, going to jump in and then drive prices down. So interesting, we see a lot of things on social media that push that, but it could be just a little bit too hyped up. And there are companies out there right now that are doing that are not publishing that, probably because they're doing so well. I coached a SaaS founder 4 or 5 years ago who had an online forms business, and he was running 7 million in revenue with him and I think maybe a couple contractors. Now, was he out there on LinkedIn publishing how much he is making per FT? Absolutely not. So there are companies now, it doesn't just take AI and an AI first company to build a 5 million ARR per FTE business. There are software SaaS companies out there doing it right now. They're just not out there hyping it up and drawing attention to themselves because maybe other people were going to come into their vertical within that space. So really interesting conversation with Mark Roberge. He mentioned this and I thought, yep, on the same thought wave as him for that. And we have some other things, Innovator's Dilemma, all these other stuff that I'll cover in a future edition of SaaS Venture School. So with that, let's talk some benchmarks with where we're seeing revenue or ARR per FTE right now so we can benchmark our SaaS company and not get too lost and not maybe get too down or sad that we're not 5 million of revenue per FTE. So let me pull up a spreadsheet and we'll take a look. So this is Ray Rike's data, Benchmark.ai, the best SaaS metrics benchmarks out there. And I like to benchmark ARR per employee or per FTE by revenue size. So let's take a look at top quartile. So these are the top performers by ARR size. So the 1 to 5 million bucket, 100,000 of ARR per employee. The 5 to 20 million bucket, 198,000 of ARR per employee. The 20 to 50 million ARR bucket, now we're at 213,000. And then the 50 to 100 million, we're at 303,000 per employee. So some really good numbers and just interesting stats to look at. Now, when I work with my SaaS founders on the fractional CFO side, we are looking at rev per FTE, but of course we know there are tons of contractors too, usually in SaaS. So really a more refined metric is using my ROAS metric. So if you Google that, it should come up as the top search result in Google. And that's the amount of recurring revenue you're generating per every dollar of employee and contractor investment. And it's much more accurate than rev per FTE, because if you're not including contractors, you may show 300K of revenue per FTE, but really all those contractors, maybe you'd be only showing 100K per FTE. So the ROAS metric, much more accurate. And what I find in my client base, this is the secret sauce here, is that if you're $1.50 or better in your ROAS metric, you are usually running very consistent financially and EBITDA positive. So that seems to be that top quartile line within my client base. So a little bit about the hype for revenue per FTE with all these AI first companies. And then also let's just ground ourselves with the benchmarks that are happening now within SaaS companies. And again, it's not just AI companies creating high rev per FTE potentially. These software companies exist out there right now. We just don't hear about them. So hopefully those benchmarks help, and then thinking about org efficiency within your tech company. Take care.